presented by the Strong Blue Line Foundation and powered by Moose Ridge Coffee in Snake River Landing, Idaho Falls. Welcome to the podcast, where former San Antonio police officer, author, and pastor Tim Rupp walks you through real-life scenarios involving our police officers and digs into the depths of facts and opinions on each case. This is Cop Talk, and it starts now.
Well, hello, and welcome to the Strong Blue Line's Cop Talk. I'm Tim Rupp in the Rev.FM studio in beautiful Idaho Falls, and here with me is station manager Gary Austin, the voice of the Valley. The voice. I saw the pin you got in your hand. What does that say? The voice of the Valley.
Voice of the Valley.
There you go.
The voice.
The voice.
I'm just an instrument in his hands. That's it.
That's it. And you know, country music, who was called the voice? Do you know? That's a good trivia question.
That is a good trivia question.
Vern Gosling.
Huh.
Vern Gosling. They called him the voice.
Vern. Huh.
You know, country, they've got the possum was George Jones, the possum.
Oh yeah.
The redheaded stranger, of course, is Willie Nelson.
Nelson.
Anyways.
Yeah, they used to
the
have
voice.
Those. Uh-huh.
So, the voice of the Valley, though, is Gary Austin, and that will never be a trivia question. Why is that? It's too commonly known. It's just like, come on, everybody knows the voice of the Valley.
Oh, Tim, nice to have you in the studio.
Oh, well.
Here we go.
Hey, we got an interesting topic. This will probably take a couple weeks.
Yeah
but, you know, it's about, and get this, a teaser. They call it a teaser in the industry.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Atheist Chaplains.
Oh.
Atheist Chaplains. Does that even make sense?
Sounds like a oxymoron.
Oxymoron, or just a straight up moron. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that.
Damn rough.
I'm sorry. This is a family show.
It is.
Hey, so let's here we are, 2 weeks out Thanksgiving. Are you ready for Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I think so.
You guys all going into town or going to family or having family?
We'll just go out to Carrie's sister's house.
Oh, cool,
so,
cool,
yeah,
good. So family and
yeah,
close. Excellent. You know the good thing about doing that is there's good and bad. The good thing is you don't have all the leftovers.
Right.
The bad thing is you don't have all the leftovers.
Exactly. It's a double.
Yeah, it's a double whammy. It's an oxymoron.
Yeah.
Hey, there you go.
So you got family coming to your place?
We got our two daughters. Our son's going to be out of town, and his kids and his wife, they're out of town, but my two daughters will be there. And so
good.
We're probably going to invite a couple of neighbors to come over and so salivate.
Wonderful. Thank
the Lord for everything. So that's a couple weeks coming up before we know it, and then it'll be Christmas. Amazing.
Here we go.
Yes, here we go. Hold on to your seats. It's coming fast. Okay, so let's talk about the officers that we're going to honor on this day that were killed in the line of duty. I've got one here, Jefferson Police Department, Texas. Jefferson Police Department, Texas, end of watch November 20, this date, in 1868, so not long after the Civil War. City Marshal William Dean Sanford. Marshal Sanford was shot and killed at 1400 hours. That's 2 o'clock in the afternoon for you civilians. When he was ambushed while eating at a local restaurant. 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Eating lunch, and he was ambushed. The suspect approached the man and shot him without saying a word. The suspect was apprehended by the military.
Wow.
And that's all we have, age 32.
It.
That's it. That's all we have.
Huh.
We don't know if he was tried and convicted or what happened. Apprehended by the military. So it may have been over the war, It may have been some, down there in Texas, maybe he was, maybe he fought for the Union, the marshal, and he was down there. Or maybe he fought for the South, and the guy that was, there was a Union sympathizer or something.
Yeah. Huh.
Who knows? You don't know.
You never know.
But the arm, he was apprehended by the military, and that, of course, would have been the Union Army.
Right.
Because the Confederate Army wasn't in existence anymore. Anyways, what do you have there, Gary?
Well, this is Officer Rasheen Philip McLean, and this is end of watch, November 20th, 2019.
Okay, about, 5 years ago now? 4 years ago? 5 years ago? 5 years. Okay,
yeah.
5 years ago.
Detroit Police Department in Michigan. So Officer McLean was dispatched to a domestic violence call where a woman's boyfriend had broken into her home and supposedly threatened the occupants with a firearm. Okay,
common call.
Common
Officers
call, sure.
Yeah,
just threatened the occupants. So he sounds like he hadn't shot anybody
Okay.
yet.
Yeah.
But this is the interesting thing, Tim. His rap sheet.
Oh, he's got his rap sheet on there?
He had been in and out of prison, which is crazy. So in 2011, the suspect, then 20, shot his 19-year-old girlfriend in the shoulder.
Oh, my.
So he was sent to prison. This was 2011. He was paroled in March of 2019.
Okay, so he's paroled in March. So he was in prison from the age of 20 until this happened, from 2011 for until 2019. So for 8 years, he's in prison.
Yeah, 8 years.
And then he gets out in March, the November before this incident. And then what? Wow.
March before November of this incident. So, and then the suspect was charged with 16 felonies, including first-degree murder.
Good grief. He's making up for time he's in prison.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
16 felonies.
16.
So May 17th, 2021, he was charged with the murder of 2 men, which he murdered supposedly on November 17th, 2019, and the other the next day. Both killed in Detroit. So this was...
So 2 days before he murders somebody, and then the day before he murders somebody, and then he's at this call.
Yeah.
So the officers are going for, I can't say it's but a domestic disturbance, boyfriend, husband, whatever, threatening with a gun. That's a common call. But this guy had just out of prison. That's another thing that's common. But he had just murdered 2 people.
Yeah.
So they don't know what they're going up against.
Mm-mm.
They have no clue.
No. So the occupants of the house informed Officer McLean that the man was inside the home and he was armed. Sergeant McLean or Officer McLean and other officers began clearing the home to locate the subject. So that means they're in the home, right?
Right. Yeah.
The
They're in.
clearing.
They're clearing it. They're like, okay, let's go through. Let's clear it. Make sure where he's at, and try to find him. They're protecting the family. They're like the family's apparently outside. Said, hey, he's in there. We don't know where he's at. Okay, let's go. And people, let me stop right here. People say, why didn't they call SWAT? You know what? You don't call SWAT for everything. Patrol officers do the work. Mm-hmm. Now, had they have known this guy's background, had it have been on the address or somewhere, if they would have had his name, if the dispatcher would have had the information to be able to run this guy and realize that this guy had just committed a couple of murders, he's wanted, and all this other stuff, they probably would have, is there anybody else in there? No, nobody's in there. Okay, let's stop, back off, and call some people to go in there and get this guy.
Okay.
Because this guy's a bad dude, but they didn't know that.
Right.
But so some people will say, well, why didn't they just call somebody to help? They don't know that. You don't have the luxury of knowing what you're going up against.
Mm-hmm. It's officers who put their lives in danger every day. Mm-hmm. It's because they, like you said, I mean, you kind of explained that it's a SWAT team is sometimes necessary.
It's a special unit.
Right. Officers are doing their job.
Usually, in a SWAT team, usually they have like an hour to respond. And people are like, really? Yeah, they're doing other things.
Yeah.
And they get together. Their time is not worried about the first responders. A SWAT team is not, quote, a first responding unit. Yep. It's a second responding unit or something like that.
Right. So. They're not there immediately. So as the officers made their way down the basement stairs, the man emerged at the bottom and opened fire immediately with a semi-automatic rifle, striking Officer McLean in the neck and another officer in the leg. The subject was wounded by additional officers after running outside of the home. Then he was taken into custody 1 block away as he attempted to flee on foot. So, yeah, kind of a dumb criminal. Obviously, his rap sheet, but I mean, he's still trying to run. He's
still trying. He wasn't going to be arrested that day. That's what I thought. It's like, yeah, you are. You're going to be arrested. And they're just going to add more stuff to it. Man.
Officer McLean died of his wounds and was actually posthumously promoted to sergeant. Yeah. He had served with the Detroit Police Department for 16 years, which is pretty lengthy.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's a veteran. He's a veteran, a seasoned officer.
Yeah, right.
But, and they were clearing it. Other guys were there. That just is bad. Yeah.
Yeah. He was 46, just a young guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 16-year tour. That's very interesting.
Yeah,
Very
wow.
sad.
Yes, very, very sad indeed.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gary, for that. Okay, so we gave the teaser, Atheist Chaplains. This is come from CNN, published November 7th, 2024, so just a couple weeks ago. Atheist Chaplains are foregoing a new path and changing the world.
Atheist Chaplains.
Atheist Chaplains.
Huh.
So let's kind of read through this and talk about it and see what. Jason Callahan spends much of his days at the bedsides of people nearing the end of life. A chaplain in the palliative care unit in the hospital in a hospital cancer unit. So the palliative care unit, Gary, them are the ones that are like they're in serious conditions. Some of them are terminally ill.
Okay.
Some are just they don't know whether they're going to be terminal or not, but it's serious things. And he was in the cancer unit, so he's dealing with people that had probably stage 3, 4 cancer victims and things like that. Callahan supports patients and their loved ones as they confront some of life's most challenging crises. And he gives the writer here. She Hermit. Hermit Carr is the writer. I think that's a female name. Hermit. I believe that is. Some of the questions. How will I cope with the pain and suffering that accompanies this advanced illness? Legitimate. Mm-hmm. Did I do right by my dying family member? Did I experience and accomplish everything I wanted to? That's a question of, purpose in life.
Mm-hmm.
Did I experience and accomplish everything I wanted to? What will happen after I die? So these are very questions. These are questions a lot of times we try to avoid, but when the doctor tells you, it's terminal, or you're going into serious surgery and there's, 20% chance of survival. Mm-hmm. You start having questions about this, and these things come up.
Yeah.
That's where chaplains come in. Callahan isn't afraid of digging into the deep stuff. In fact, he runs toward it. Sometimes, though, he'll encounter patients who brush him off as they learn that he's a chaplain. Now, Gary, we got probably largely a Christian audience, I would say, out there.
Uh-huh.
And most Christians would say, well, if a chaplain comes, why would you brush him off? Why wouldn't you want to? When I was a chaplain, I still am. I still do chaplain duties for the sheriff's office here. But when I was more active in being called out and doing chaplain, so you would get there, and some people find out you're a chaplain and they don't want to talk to you.
Right.
And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. One is if it's a serious issue, they don't want a chaplain because a chaplain means it's a serious issue. Mm. So it's kind of like denial.
No, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
The door opens up and there's a police officer there with a chaplain. They're not coming with good news at all.
Yeah.
They're coming with bad news.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, no, I don't want to hear it almost. So that's one thing. Another thing is there are some people that aren't religious, aren't spiritual, whatever. They're atheists and they don't want a chaplain.
Mm-hmm.
Sad, but understandable.
Yeah.
So it says here that they tell him they aren't in a particular mood for a sermon. And that's understandable. People say things like that. The article continues. He isn't there to preach or pray. He reassures them. So he's not there to preach to them, to tell them. And a lot of people, they don't need preaching to. They need comfort. They need the presence of another human being. They need presence. Or to pray. He says, I'm not there to pray with you. He reassures them. His job is to be there for them as a human being. And it says to listen and to comfort them through whatever they're struggling with. Okay, so far that sounds like a legitimate.
Okay,
chaplain. Yeah. In these conversations with patients who are wary of religion, Callahan slips in another detail. He's an atheist himself. Now that got my attention.
Yeah, I'd certainly got mine too.
It says that he's there to listen. Now, if you were an atheist and a friend of mine, Gary, you can listen to me. If I'm going through some troubled times and I know that you're a friend of mine, but you're an atheist, you don't believe in God, you can listen to me. And I can say, I know, Gary, I'm going through this time, and you could be a good listener.
Right.
And it says, and to comfort them with whatever they're struggling with. So, Gary, if you were a friend of mine, you were atheist, and I was in hospice care or had a terminally ill, disease, how are you going to comfort me?
Yeah, that's
With what?
not going to. Yeah.
I'm not really sure.
That part, it does get to me where I just have a hard time understanding, and it's not the author's fault, but or the reporter, but it's just, he's an atheist himself, but who are weary of religion doesn't mean that they don't believe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true. And think about it, Gary. What is it we all long for? What is it that makes us wake up every day and look forward to life, or even go through? It's hope.
Yeah.
Hope.
Exactly.
Hope. The Bible tells us, and it's hope. And so, if you're terminally ill, I guess, and you don't believe in God, and if there was not a God and you were terminally ill, the only comfort I could give you is that your suffering is going to be over.
Yeah.
So I guess that would be, as I'm thinking about this, your suffering is going to be over. But what if I'm wrong? And there is a God.
Exactly.
That you have to answer to that God for, what you did in this life.
Yeah.
So that's
well, and I just wondered if being an atheist, I mean, and I just, like you said, I don't understand how you can give anybody hope as a human being. Not, you know what I mean? Like, as a human being, as a friend, you can be like, I love you.
Because if you look at it from I think you're right, Gary. Because remember, one of the questions was, that people have near the end of life, did I experience and accomplish everything that I wanted to? What will happen after I? So that almost gives a sense that there's a purpose in life.
Mm-hmm.
It is our purpose just to accomplish everything I want to. Is my purpose in life to have this bucket list and go through the bucket list and, okay, I've done all the 10 things on my bucket list.
No.
Is that the purpose in life?
No.
Is it just to live every day with gusto and then the end comes?
Right.
So.
Right.
Anyways, I found it. Well, let's continue on there. And it says here, Callahan is one of a growing number of openly atheist chaplains working in institutions around the country. So he isn't the only guy on the block. Though the term atheist chaplain might sound like an oxymoron, we talked about that. He doesn't see the contradiction between his beliefs and the work of tending to the human spirit. So, where does the spirit come from?
The work of tending to the human spirit.
Doesn't that imply spirituality?
Yeah, it does.
Spirit,
And as an atheist, I wonder why you would think to provide hope of, well, at least your suffering will be over.
That's the only hope.
That how do you believe that as an atheist? That, I mean, I don't know.
And as tough as it is, and it's easy to sit here, Gary, with, as far as I know right now, I've got no family members, especially close family members that are going through terrible things. Things are good in life, really. They are. That could change overnight. But the Bible tells us that all things work together for good to them who love the Lord, to them who are called according to his purpose. So that means that although we don't understand it, if I go to the doctor tomorrow and said, Mr. Rupp, you've got terminal illness, you got 3 months to live, get your things in order. Somehow I know, somehow part of my hope is the Lord's going to use this for good. Somewhere down the line, my kids, my grandchildren, people that know me or whatever it is, it's okay. It's going to be used for good, because this life is not all there is.
Right.
If this life was all there was, Gary, then the goal of this life would be to live as long as you could in the best health that you could, and doing the things that you enjoy doing more and more. And it would all be, that's all self-centeredness, self-focused. And life without God is just that.
Exactly.
It is completely self-focused, self-centered. even as believers and Christians, sometimes we get self-focused too.
We do.
I'll admit, Gary, maybe not you, maybe not the voice of the ballot.
No.
Okay.
Hey, but as an atheist, we're going to go one of two places. So
Exactly.
we only have one chance. As Christians, we believe in and have faith in God.
Yes.
In Jesus Christ. And so without being an atheist, I don't know how you can provide any kind of hope being a human being, because if you don't believe, your suffering is going to continue.
Well, in one of the best books, and I'm not an expert on atheism, but one of the best books I read on atheist is I Don't Have the Faith to Be an Atheist. And the author goes through and he writes about, Frank Turek, I think is his name, he writes about how you've really got to make large jumps of faith to be an atheist.
Blind faith.
Blind faith. You got to say, okay, well, if there is no God, then one thing, then why are we here? How did this happen? So it's all accidental, and the probabilities, the mathematical probabilities of all these things coming together where life can sustain is that, first of all, it said, well, what was there in the beginning? Well, there was some particles, and where'd they come from?
Yeah.
Well, you cannot have something out of nothing.
No.
If you start with nothing, you end with nothing.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to bake, I know Carrie's going to do her Christmas stuff. If you walk over and you see Carrie and she's got this big bowl and a spoon and she has nothing in it, and you say, Carrie, what are you making? I'm making some Christmas candy. Well, what are you going to put? What are the ingredients? Like nothing.
Yeah. Well,
if you begin with nothing, there's going to be nothing at the end. There's nothing.
And it's not science.
And it's not science.
No.
It isn't science. So, there has to be a cause and effect. A cause and effect.
I like that. No, that's a good point.
Anyways, it's kind of unusual. Boy, I thought we were going to get further along in this. We did not.
Sorry, I've been talking so much here, Tim.
Wow, we didn't get hardly anywhere. I thought we're going to have to do this next time, Gary.
Okay. All right.
We may have to do it.
Sounds good.
We may do this until Jesus comes. Hopefully, it won't be very long. Yeah. This will be our last show. I'll be happy with that. Hey, thanks for listening in. If you have a topic or question you want addressed on Cop Talk, please send me an email. You can email suggestions, questions, comments, or complaints to coptalk@therev.fm. That's coptalk@therev.fm. And a thought from the good book today, as I'm frantically turning to the page where it's at, and I'm killing time getting there. Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of mercies and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our affliction, so that we may be able to comfort those who are in any affliction with the comfort with which we ourselves are comforted by God. Thank you for joining us. Helping to make the thin blue line a strong blue line.
Cop Talk is presented by the Strong Blue Line Foundation and sponsored by Moose Ridge Coffee in Snake River Landing, Idaho Falls. Questions and comments are always welcome by email to coptalk@therev.fm. Listen, follow, leave a review, and share this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or YouTube. And visit thestrongblueline.org to learn how you can be a supporter. Cop Talk is a Rev FM production, produced and edited by Gary Austin. Thank you for joining us on Cop Talk.